Tom Lee just made his boldest crypto prediction yet.
Between 10 and 20,000. I think the 200 to 250,000 for Bitcoin still makes sense.
Ethereum to $20,000 and Bitcoin to $250,000 this cycle. So there's a lot of talk right now in the YouTube world and on X about when to sell your crypto. And we're going to talk about that today. But Tom Lee's prediction is extraordinarily important. It's not just based on hype. His forecast is built on real-world adoption. Ethereum is set to profit massively as stablecoins, powered by the Genius Act that was passed last week and signed by the president, are going to flood the financial system. So Bitcoin, we know that it's scooped up by institutions, by governments, and by the richest of the rich individual investors, as well as many of us here down on the front lines as well. So don't get too comfortable, though. There's going to be pullbacks, bull traps, fake outs designed to shake you out before the run is over. And the chart, as you well know, if ever goes up and to the right without hesitation. Rarely does it do that. So let's break down what's really happening and how I'm going to play this cycle. So with that, remember, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm just sharing with you what I'm doing in this market for your entertainment. While this video is not sponsored, I may mention affiliate links down below. I may make money if you decide to sign up on those links, which go to support the channel. If you are not a subscriber, now is the time to subscribe. And if you get any value whatsoever out of this video, or if you want to give me a like because you are such a good person, I would greatly appreciate it. So for those of you who don't know, Tom Lee, he's pretty much the real deal. He's the managing partner and head of research at Fundstrat Global Advisors. He's an accomplished Wall Street strategist with over 25 years of experience in equity research and has been a top-ranked institutional investor every year since 1998. He's a full-time contributor on CNBC's Fast Money, Tech Check, Halftime Report, and Closing Bell shows. He might be on some other ones. I'm not sure. He's also chairman of the board of BitMine. And this last piece is important because this is a company that just sold their Bitcoin and bought Ethereum to become an Ethereum treasury company. So does he have a little bit of bias? Sure. But let me play this bit clip of him as well. This is pretty cool.
Are you going to, I don't know, start making comments and recommendations about stablecoins?
Yes. I mean, in a sense, stablecoins are the ChatGPT moment for crypto because businesses like it and consumers are adopting it. And now we see JP Morgan and Citi and getting into the stablecoin market, and the Genius Act, of course.
How would you play that?
Well, Circle is one way because it is a standout company. They've done really well. But Ethereum is really the way to play stablecoins because the majority of stablecoins are created on Ethereum. It's over 30% of its network fees. And if Scott Bessent's right in it, he says now it's close to a $4 trillion market. That's exponential growth for Ethereum.
Ethereum is
exponential growth for Ethereum. So remember, he put a price target of $15,000 to $20,000 on Ethereum. And every time he puts a price target out and makes a prediction, he puts his reputation on the line. So he's saying that ETH can go to 20,000. He doesn't necessarily say it's going to 20,000. And Bitcoin's possibly going to 250 this cycle. So this is based on a couple economic drivers. And while they're certainly bold predictions, they certainly have legs. So remember, Bitcoin and Ethereum are both very different in my head. So the Genius Act, which he talks about, the Genius Act basically, for those of you who don't know, is regulating stablecoins by saying that they have to be backed one-to-one by either the US dollar or a US Treasury to give it, some teeth. And so to know that if you buy a stablecoin, that it'd be very tough for that to go to zero. It's very highly regulated. And so if you couple that with all this money flooding in, it's going to make our debt less expensive because if you buy treasuries, the price goes up and the yield goes down. So it's going to make our cost of money in the United States less. But it's also going to have a profound effect on crypto because people are going to be using these stable coins to do all kinds of transactions. You heard JP Morgan Chase, Citi, some of the biggest banks in the world are looking how to adopt these things already. And that is important because most of the 50% of stablecoins right now are minted on Ethereum. And as Ethereum gets used more and more, the value of Ethereum goes up. So the more Ethereum is used, the greater adoption, the greater price of Ethereum. It's pretty simple. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to go up and to the right. Who knows what can really happen? But, you look at Ethereum as a real play here. Now, in the past, I looked at Ethereum as slower, not as good tech as something like Solana, Sui, some other ones. But Wall Street sees Ethereum as something that's been around for a while and hasn't had a lot of issues. But, there's also XRP, there's Solana, Sui, there's a couple others that do it faster and better than Ethereum. But Ethereum's been around longer, more tested, and it's fast enough for Wall Street. It's way faster than what they're used to. And so if you look at Bitcoin is being adopted right now heavily. If you look at the ETFs, the ETF inflows, let's restart this. The ETF inflows yesterday was the 20, this is not up to date, but we've had incredible amount of ETF inflows for Bitcoin. $151 billion have gone to the ETFs. You have companies buying Bitcoin. They look at more of a store of value of something that like gold will appreciate, and it's a good hedge against inflation. It's not quite there yet, but it's on its way, and that's the way they're looking at it, is the digital gold. And he even mentions if it's digital gold, it should be worth $1 million a coin. And I would love to see that. That would be amazing. He said it might take us a couple of years to get there. So, this is the other thing that we have to be conscious of. Yes, I believe Ethereum is going to go up. I believe that Bitcoin is go up. These are my beliefs. They don't have to be yours, and I can't prove this, and I don't know if it's going to happen on 100%. But then you look at the total value of crypto. Total value of crypto is almost $4 trillion. I mean, we were up at 3.95 trillion dollars. But a healthy part of going up is pulling back and going down. And in the past, we've had moves of 20 to 30% down during, corrections during these cycles. And if you look at even this cycle, since the beginning of 2025, we went down. This pullback was 38%. And that happened in a couple of months. But then, we had a rise back up. We went up 71%. So that's incredible. And then you have, just in the recent past, you've had dips in a short amount of time of 15 to 20%. So that's a healthy part. And, we've had such a run up the last couple of weeks. I do worry, and I put a video out on last Sunday that said, is a pullback coming? Because anytime I'm programmed in crypto to, once you have a really big run up and you run up like we did in the last, just look at this, just in a couple days, we had a run up of 20% in the crypto market. And we have had a little bit of a pullback. And I've heard people talk, oh gosh, pullback. And we've had a little bit of a pullback, but this is nothing. I mean, yesterday or last couple days, a 2-3% pullback, that is really nothing. Now, the question is this pullback going to be greater, or is it just going to like this and bounce up? Nobody really knows. Anyone who says they do doesn't. But the best thing to do is to protect yourself, okay? Smart money accumulates during fear, not euphoria. Don't get emotionally invested into your pumps. Get strategically positioned. So what do I mean by that? Have a plan, not just hope. Don't go into it just being like, I want more, and I'll get out when I feel like I have enough. That is not a good plan. You want to stay educated, follow the news, both the macro news that you're going to find on the CNBCs, the Fox News, the CNN, whatever your flavor is, I don't care. And, make sure you understand what's going on in the macro world, but also look at the data. Look at the data. People say Fed's going to drop the rates. That's not true. The nothing right now tells me the Feds are going to drop the rates in July. There's only a 5% chance that, according to the CME Fed Rate Watch, that the Feds are going to drop their rates. I look at the price of oil. Price of oil is actually down a bit, but it hasn't dropped through the floor. And this is the biggest indicator of inflation to me. And why is inflation important? Because if there's inflation, Fed's going to hesitate to drop the rates. I look at, what's some other data that I can look at? The DXY, that's the dollar strength index, basically. And it's, it's fairly low, but it's on the rise. The dollar's strengthened, which isn't necessarily best for the rate drops. But my point is stay educated, stay ahead of the news. Listen, look at X, but also know that there's a lot of fake news out there. I got a call from someone yesterday And they said that the Jerome Powell resigned, and I was like, no. I looked. The first thing I did was look. I was already looking at the markets, and I realized there's no freaking way. If Jerome Powell resigned, the markets would have done something. The markets didn't move. So before you believe what you see, research it. But the news is what's gonna push these things forward right now. Some kind of news is going to push it up or down. The market's just looking for a direction at this point. It's tippy top. The market's in fear. I mean, even though this says that, we're going this right here, the market's just worried like I am. It's got PTSD of sorts that says, look, we're up here. We've had this big run up. I'm scared of a run down. And the second I see it, I might start selling. Not me. But if it goes down, if it gets back to this level, I'm going to be a buyer. This is the total crypto market. But if you look at even Bitcoin, it doesn't like me here. XRP. Got a lot of notes on here. XRP still staying above this 330, 340 level. But if it goes below there, I'm going to watch to see how far it goes, and I might be a bigger buyer the farther drop it has. That all being said, we have an opportunity in this market. So what am I doing? What am I doing about it? Well, I want to be in the market. And Ethereum and Bitcoin, I might sell some Bitcoin to buy some Ethereum at some point. I'm not at that point yet. But what I do, I put a little money into an Ethereum Bitcoin bot. So it just trades back and forth between Ethereum and Bitcoin. When Ethereum price rises, it sells into Bitcoin. When Bitcoin rises, it sells into Ethereum. So you have one of these things going on. I do that through Pionex. I have a link down below. I do it through EasyBot. I have a link down below. I like EasyBot because I keep the money in the Kraken exchange, which I have a link down below. And the Kraken exchange is a very well-tested exchange, not financial advice, but it's done very well. And so I keep my money in there. And the EasyBot's just a signal, a buy and sell signal that it sends to my Kraken exchange through the EasyBot software. They don't really have access to my account. They can send a signal to buy and sell, and I control that. I set up the API. Very easy to do with their instructions. And I have this Ethereum Bitcoin, so I'm in the market. I'm not in USDT while my Ethereum is going up and my Bitcoin is going up. I'm in Ethereum or BTC. That bot has been very successful. Same with Pionex, but the thing with Pionex is you have to send it to them, and it's an exchange, and it's a Pionex.us, so it's regulated, I hope. Don't really know. But that is what I'm doing. That's one of the things I'm doing. So watch the trends, long-term, short-term. So all in all, Tom Lee's core thesis is that Ethereum fueled by stablecoins, Bitcoin's fueled by global adoption, and this is a pretty good theory. And we could see a run-up in these things, but there's going to be a lot of volatility ahead. There could be massive upside as well, but you're going to see big swings to both directions. To go up 30%, sometimes you have to go down by 15 or 30 and up by 40. Who knows? That all being said, smash the like button if you're in for the long haul. Drop your ETH and Bitcoin predictions below and subscribe for weekly alpha. That's all I got. I'll see you next time.